Guys, welcome back to the weekly Forex outlook and reviews. I hope everybody's doing well. I hope some of you made some money last week. Some of the predictions that we anticipated to happen played out fairly well. I'm going to go over a few of the pairs and added a few more this week. So we'll review the 10 pairs that we analyzed last week, and the new pairs that we'll be looking at will be Euro USD, Pound Aussie Dollar, and Aussie Dollar USD. Now, last week we expected a strong dollar. And as you can see from the DXY, the dollar index, we've had that strong move to the upside. Now, I'm not so convinced at the moment that we're going to continue pushing up. However, it's very important to highlight the fact here that price has now broken the previous structure high. After this impulse move to the downside, we've had this fake out of the structure around 96.82, and we've had this price pushed back into the structural level, breaking the previous structure high around 97.33. We can see that the bulls are in control of this market last week. We've had a good 3 solid days of upwards movement. Now, we predicted that price would pull back. We didn't know where to, but in and around these areas here, potentially looking for this structural area to be a resistance zone, or potentially looking at this structural high and then a new lower high formation before continuation down. So what I'm anticipating next week is to see how price reacts. Are we going to have this pullback and a lower high formation structure forming before we have a continuation down? Or after this break of this previous structure high, are we now going to have a correction move to the downside before the continuation back to the upside? It's still to be decided. I think patience is a virtue with this one. But as I said, if you was in the market last week, there was plenty of opportunities to get into a trade. We have one structural high low, another high low, another high low. And as you can see, price is clearly trading to the upside. So anything above this, not a trend line, but this support zone could have been a potential buy opportunity. We had a few break and retest areas here and that you could have been looking at if you was obviously observing the charts. We have our first break and retest here. We have a more subtle break and retest here. And we, of course, now have this continued impulse move up. So I'll be looking for price to show evidence of what it's planning to do next week. Are we going to have this exhaustion before a continuation back up? Or are we going to find a new lower high formation before we have this continuation to the downside? Still to be decided. At the moment, price is still trading up. So I'm not going to sell into the bulls. I'll be waiting for more evidence. However, great performance from the dollar index, and for those that was able to get into some buy opportunities, very well done. For those that didn't, we'll be waiting patiently next week. The next pair that we're going to have a look at, guys, is New Zealand USD. Now, we predicted a strong dollar last week. So after reviewing this, and it's very important to review your analysis from the week before, just to try and get an idea of the thought process that went behind the decisions that you made or the anticipations that you made. And that definitely helps you moving forward. Now, remember we said we was looking for a strong dollar, and we can clearly see that the dollar was trumping. Excuse the pun, but it was strong and it resisted and it came back to the downside. Now, looking at this overall structure, we did expect the pullback. We didn't expect it so sharp. As you can see, on Thursday, this is where price was at, looking good for a potential higher low formation. And then Friday, we had this extremely strong impulse move to the downside. Now, if anybody was able to get into sales from this resistance zone since the market opened, there was a good potential 166 pip range that you could have looked to take some trades in. Dropping down to lower time frames, was there any good entries? I'm not too sure. I didn't watch this market too tough. Yeah, there was some great opportunities here, guys. After price resisted this level and started breaking these previous structural lows, we have this consolidation here in this market. As you can clearly see, price was moving sideways for a period of time, and then finally we had the break of this structure, and we had the break back in, and then price fell down. Now you potentially got a nice retest level, sell level here. You could have taken it back down to the structural lows. And you also had a few opportunities here. Now, remember, in a ranging market, the only time you really want to sell or buy is with the market flow. So we know the market was down based on this resistance zone up here around 66.80. After we had this move to the downside, indicating that sellers were in the market, all you're waiting for is for price to come into these resistance areas within the range and look to make sure that the most important thing that you have when looking for a trade is that your stop loss is above the range itself, okay? Now, I know you can buy the range from the bottom, but you want to go with the momentum and where price is flowing. Trying to battle against it and trade against it just becomes suicide. So take this as a tip. If you want to sell in consolidations or range of markets, sell with the market and always make sure you have a stop loss above previous structure high. And as you can see, if you was able to get in at any of these resistance levels, you have a good 6-to-1 here. And if you was able to take the break and retest with the stop loss above these previous structure highs, then we're looking at a good 5.5-to-1 as well, okay? So that was a great performing market. We did expect the pullback. We've had the continuation to the downside. So what's my thoughts behind this market at the moment? Well, clearly we can see it's very bearish. Does that mean the market can't reverse here at these levels? Well, clearly they can. But what I'll be waiting for, just for more evidence, is to see if price can continue with this momentum shift to the downside. A push, retest the structure, and then a continuation to the downside. If this doesn't happen, guys, then I'll just be waiting for new structure to form. I'll be looking for the first structural high, higher low, and then see price change direction. Then I'll be looking for my buy setups. But for now, no trading opportunities on New Zealand USD. The next pair that we like to look at is Pound USD, and the prediction on this pair was to see this market push to the downside. And as you can see, this has clearly happened. Now, great trading opportunity here for those that were watching this market. We can clearly see prices trading above the support zone. We had a strong impulse move off the resistance level. Prices tapped this around 4 or 5 times. And after the break of this structural support, we can see price shifted. We came back for a retest of this level. And now we've had this strong momentum to the downside. So looking at this here, guys, again, you have a range. I'm not going to go down to lower time frames to find these for you, but I can see clearly there's a range, stop loss above market structure. At the moment, if you was in this trade, you'd probably be sitting at about 4.8-to-1. If you weren't able to get into these areas here, then you can be able to shift down to your lower time frames, and you'll be looking for some of these structural areas to be broken. These ones here. Okay, and then you'll be looking for price to come back for a retest. You can get a stop loss below these structural areas. And of course, if this doesn't happen or you're not able to get into these trades, you're just going to be waiting for price to give you a nice pullback, something like this. So then you can have your stop loss above these areas here, either waiting for the breakout, the retest, whatever your trading style is. And then now you'll be sitting in this trade pretty comfortably. So a very nice performing pair on Pound USD. As predicted, price has gone down. What is the forecast for Pound USD moving forward? Well, based on the structure of this market, I still think we have some more room to the downside. We have major structural levels to the left, looking around here. I'll be expecting price to complete this and continue this push to the downside. So for those holding sells, going into break even will be very wise. For those looking for sells, then we'll definitely just be waiting for the pullback and looking for our lower high formation to be formed before we have a continuation to the downside. So that's Pound USD. The next pair that we have to look at is Euro Yen. Now, Yen performed absolutely beautifully last week, and I got myself into a very nice trade on CAD Yen. I'll go over that in a second. But as we can see, again, with this structure, guys, we had a strong impulse move to the upside. We predicted that this market formation would be down. You can see price was trading above the support zone, and we finally had the break. How would you get into this market? Well, guys, you have to learn to identify. We have a structural high here. We have the break of the structural high indicating bullish pressure, evidence of sellers entering the market. We have price breaking back into the structure, which is breaking back below these levels here. And then what you're doing is you're looking for these structural in the market for price to pull back and give you your lower high formations, i.e. these, and then you look to get into the market for the sell to the downside after you've gathered this evidence on the left, okay? So another great prediction. We'll see where this market goes. My bias on this pair is still down moving forward to next week. We're looking to target some of these structural level lows down here. So that's Euro Yen. The next pair we'll have a look at is CAD Yen. Again, another great prediction. And we expected this market to go down, and I was able to get myself into a very nice trade. You can see price was having this pullback after this structure on this market was clearly down. Looking at the formation, we have a structural high, lower low, lower high, lower low, lower high, lower low. Pullback, exhaustion on this overall bearish market, structural high, lower high, and then looking for the evidence to get into this market. At the moment, I'm sitting in this pair around, 35 pip stop loss. This is a bit high, not something I'm used to doing, having a very big stop loss like this. However, I am testing something for my community, and I'm looking forward to rolling this out for them. But we can clearly see price gapped up when the market opened. We've had this attempt by the bulls to continue pushing up. Strong evidence here of the bears taking back over this market after our next previous lower high has been formed. And now we've had this move to the downside. At the moment, I'm sitting in this trade around 82 pips profit. I'm locked in at break even. And my bias on this pair is still a continued bearish momentum to the downside, looking to be filling some of these ranges around these levels here. This is 80.04. So another great performer. And for those holding sells, I'd say go to break even. Those looking for sells will be waiting for more evidence, obviously dependent on your strategy. But another great performer. Aussie Dollar JPY, again, absolutely amazing performer. We expected this pullback on this market. We was expecting a stronger pullback because clearly what we're looking for is the structure to form a lower high. And then we'll be looking for our sell opportunity or signals to get into the market. Anyway, price opened on Friday. We had this push to the upside. And now, as you can see, the channel that we expected price to follow through finally broke. And now we've had this shift to the downside. I'm not in this trade. I would have been in this trade if price pulled back for me a little bit deeper. But we've had this move to the downside. And from where price broke this channel, we've had a 115 pip move. For those looking to get into sell opportunities, we'll just scale down to our lower time frames and see if we had any opportunities. Absolutely. So this is just the 4 hour alone. So for those working and not able to go to the lower time frames, once price broke this channel, you're looking for your first lower high to be formed. And then you're either looking to take this trade at the breakout of this structure, stop loss above structure, or you're going to be scaling down to your lower time frames, looking for an entry in and around these areas. If you're able to get into this trade with a very advanced entry, you're probably sitting in this trade, if we're honestly going to set this up, around 8 to 1. And if you was able to get the breakout of this trade with stop loss above structure, you're probably sitting in this trade around almost 3.7 to 1. So another great performer. We'll see how this market continues to move as of next week. My prediction also is to see this price continue to push back to the downside, fill in some of this wick before a change in direction of this market. The next pair we'll look at is USD CAD. We'll just clear this up a little bit. Our predictions last week was to see price pull back. Now, we've had the break of this trend line, as you can clearly see, indicating bearish pressure in the market. As anticipated, this market has pulled back extremely strong again. Now, we can see that the dollar has been really strong last week, and this big impulse move to the upside obviously closed the week very strong. What am I expecting now? Well, again, it's another game of patience. I'm going to wait to see how price starts to react. Are we going to form a new lower high structure after this structural high was formed, or are we going to have a pullback before continuation up? It's too early to decide, so I'm not looking to sell or buy this market. I will wait patiently to see how price starts to react. At the moment, we can see that bulls are in control of this market, so I'm not going to be looking to sell into them anytime soon. And the only time I'm going to look for buys is when I have a confirmed structure, high-low, or if it comes back to support, showing evidence that the bears are failing to push this market back to the downside. So for now, I'm waiting patiently. I do feel more bearish than bullish, but again, it's a game of patience, okay? So, gold. I mean, to be honest with you guys, I was really happy with the performance of this pair. Now, we expected this pair to pull back, and we expected this pair to push back to the upside. Now, regardless of how the week closed, we can clearly see that we've had that exact move. Now, it did take a few days, I do believe about 2 days before we started to see the evidence of the push to the upside. And this was a pullback we were expecting. And this was a continuous movement that was expecting back to the upside. Now, this was actually a very great performer. Wasn't able to get into this trade due to circumstances. However, as you can see, price gave ample opportunity to get into these trades here. Now, once price came back to a major support area on this market, which was probably the lowest point on this market, you can see how it started to react. We have a very strong engulfing candle. Not that I follow them, but we have a very strong engulfing candle. Now, this may not be a sign to you that you're looking to enter the market. For me, it clearly isn't. But what I'm waiting for is for the break of structure to show that the bulls are in control of the market. And then I'm looking for price to come back to retest these structures to look for my buy opportunities. Now, I'm not going to go into too much detail on how we would look for a buy here, but clearly, dependent on your trading strategy or system you have in place, if you was able to scale down to your lower time frames and get in the market here, you'll probably be sitting in this trade at its tops, which was around here, a good 6.5 to 1 on this pair. But again, I'm not going to go into too much details about that. What's my prediction on gold? Well, in all honesty, I'm just going to wait for prices to continue to show evidence of what it wants to do. After this big, strong rejection from the upside, I'm not too worried to indicate that the bears are in control of the market. As you know, I'm a patient trader. I'll wait for price to give me evidence of new structure forming, and then I'll look to sell the market. If I don't get this formation, then I'm just going to clearly wait for price to continue to break, close above, show signs of evidence of bulls are in control of the market, and then look to rally this market back to the upside. So another great performer for those that was able to wait patiently for the close on Wednesday to look to get into buys. Would have done pretty well there. Euro New Zealand dollar, again, we expected this pullback on this market. Now, did we expect it this strong? Absolutely not. The thing is with this pair, I think it was a two-way thing here. We could have expected after price showed signs that the bears were in the market, forming the structural lower highs, that we could be looking for sells. Now, we're waiting for evidence, okay? So we're waiting for a price to pull back and give evidence that we're looking for sells. So anybody that avoided selling this market prematurely, very well done. If you was looking to sell the market in and around here, that's also a great option. I would have hoped that you'd have waited for more evidence in this market before taking the trades. Now, the evidence would have been price closing above these structures and then looking for the retest of these structures. So when I go down to the lower time frames, we can see that price came into these levels. We tested them. We had the first retest of this level. And if you're using this as an entry, then I'm hoping that based on the skills and knowledge that you would have in the markets, you would have been able to get into these markets in and around these areas with a very tight stop loss, and you'll be targeting your 3-to-1s or whatever it may be. By the time price pushed down into these levels, you would have locked in at break even. So even after this impulse move to the upside, you wouldn't have lost this trade. This is the importance, and this differentiates a great trader to just a trader. So we've had this pullback on Euro New Zealand dollar. What's my prediction on this pair? Well, to be honest with you, I don't like the market anymore. I can see prices clearly broke above this structure. Is this enough evidence for me? Not really. What I'm looking for in this pair now is for price to give us evidence that we're going to pull away and back to the structure before continuation up. I don't see this happening anytime soon. So for now, Euro New Zealand dollar is going to be on the back burner. USD JPY. Now, after we saw the impulse move on gold to the downside for the first 2 days of last week, not impulse move, pullback move on gold for the first 2 days last week, we had a very strong rally to the upside. What's happened here with USD JPY? Well, we've had a very strong dollar, and we've also had a very strong yen. And that will be the reason why this market has simply moved sideways. So for that reason, guys, another tip. If you're trading, it's not just about looking for your pin bar during engulfing candles, applying your strategy. It's also just being aware of what is happening in the markets. Anybody that was trying to buy or sell dollar yen was just a little bit on the wrong side of their thought process, because if you have two very strong pairs that are performing very well for the week, then the best thing to do is trade them separately, not against each other, because what you'll find is the market does exactly this, move sideways, okay? So for that reason, I'm still waiting for more evidence on dollar. I do feel very strongly about yen, but I also know that they're probably the best top performers from last week. So now dollar yen will go on a back burner. But very interesting to know this, guys, and something to think about moving forward, okay? Euro USD, this is one of our new pairs. And as you can see, guys, this is pretty much a bearish market at the moment. Now, the reason why I say this is not because we have a strong engulfing candle to the downside, but we see that price was trading above the support zone for a very long period of time. We've finally now broken below this previous structure level. We've now closed above it. However, based on the formation of this market, what you can see is we have a structural high, lower high formation, lower high formation, lower high formation, and now the structure changes. We have a break above this previous structure, and now what we could potentially be forming is a higher low formation before continuation to the upside. So What's my prediction on this pair? Well, first and foremost, I'm going to start to see how price reacts around here. If I find evidence that price is finding support and I get an entry, I'm taking bias. If price starts to crash back down below these levels, then I'm going to patiently wait for price to come back, show evidence, and then look to sell the market back to the downside. But for now, don't get too caught up in big red or green candles. Look at the overall structure of this market was down. We've had the violation of this structure to the upside. This was your first retest higher-low structure. This is now potentially your double bottom of the higher-low structure, and then we potentially could be moving to the upside. So, two key things I'm looking for next week on this pair. I'm looking to see how price reacts around the support, 11.99. Don't really care where the level's at because I'm not looking at a singular line. And look for support. See if we're going to get this high low to the upside. And if not, then I'm just simply patiently wait for the break of the structure and then look for more evidence for a sell, okay? That's my prediction on USD moving forward next week. The next pair that I like to look at is pound Aussie dollar. Now we can clearly see price made a double top at this area here around 88.22. We have a very, very strong impulse move to the downside. Now we're bound to find some sort of support around these levels here because we've had this strong push. Now guys, when you see a lot of red candles, expect this to happen, a nice pullback. With this pullback, we do have a lot of bearish pressure. As you notice, a lot of these candles are closing with wicks. My prediction on pound Aussie dollar is to see the price continue to push back to the downside before it decides whether it's going to continue to, find support and continue up. At the moment, I don't see enough orders in this market to continue this rally to the upside. So what I'll be looking for is a potential sell opportunity back to the downside. Am I worried that the support level is here? Absolutely not, because once price gets down to this level, it's just going to be locking this in that break even. I'm not looking to get into the sell just yet, so don't take this as a signal, guys, but I'm definitely going to be looking for more downward movement on pound Aussie dollar moving forward next week. Okay? Last pair that I like to look at is Aussie Dollar USD. Now, this is a very interesting structure. We can see here we have a structural support. Am I looking to sell this market into this support? Absolutely not. I'm looking for potential reversal in this market after we've had this strong impulse move to the downside, potential double bottom formation. Now to buy, I'm waiting for more evidence. The evidence is this, a break of this structure to clearly show that the bulls are in control of this market. Or the next thing that I'm going to be looking for, and I'll have to scale in clearly, is to see price start to show evidence of bullish pressure, failing to break the support zone, and then look to buy, scaling down to my lower time frames. When am I looking to sell this market? Well, guys, you should know, clear break of this structure, potential retest, lower high formation, continuation to the downside, okay? So that's the outlook for next week and the reviews. I hope you've enjoyed it. Please, guys, if you have, don't forget to subscribe, like, and turn on notifications. But as always, have a great Sunday, and we'll catch you up next week.